The morning sun rose slowly over the red earth of Abadan, painting the tin rooftops in gold and the air with warmth. The city hummed awake, hawkers shouting prices, motorbikes honking, the smell of puff puff and fried plantain drifting through the narrow streets. Among the bustle, a young woman named Amara Nwosu stood before a cracked mirror, tying a faded scarf over her hair. Her reflection stared back, brown skin glistening from the morning heat, eyes that told stories of endurance, and a heart that loved too deeply. Today, she decided to test the man she planned to marry. For months, her fiancé Tunde Adebayo had been the pride of her life. A charming banker from Lagos, always in starched shirts and polished shoes, speaking English mixed with Yoruba proverbs that melted her heart. He had promised her forever, promised that money meant nothing to him, that love was his only wealth. But something in Amara's gut had begun to whisper otherwise. She noticed how his tone changed when her cousin drove up in her new Benz, how he became extra gentle around her rich friends, especially Adaora, the daughter of a wealthy business tycoon. So, Amara planned a test, a risky one. She decided to visit Tunde that day dressed not as the daughter of Chief Nwosu, the late oil tycoon whose hidden fortune still sat in legal custody, but as a simple, poor village girl. Her clothes were torn from washing, her slippers worn out, her handbag one she used to carry cassava flour as a child. She powdered her face lightly with ash, tied her wrapper loosely, and carried herself with a humble gait. "Not today, truth go show," she whispered to herself, stepping out of her room in the family's old compound house in Makola. Her best friend Adaora had promised to meet her later that day, pretending to be the rich cousin visiting from abroad. The plan was simple: see how Tunde behaved toward both women. As she walked down the street, children waved. "Auntie Amara, you no go church today?" one of them shouted. She smiled softly. "I go soon, my Pekin." When she reached Tunde's office downtown, the city was already alive with sound, the roaring buses, the hum of traders, and gospel music blasting from a nearby stall. She waited at the entrance, watching the glass doors open and close for men in suits and women in perfume so strong it trailed behind them. She could feel eyes on her, a few whispers. Her faded wrapper made her look out of place among the city's shining faces. But that was the point. Finally, Tunde stepped out. Tall, clean-shaven, the smell of cologne drifting around him like pride itself. His smile faded when he saw her. "Amara," he asked, confused. What happened to you? Why are you dressed like this?" She gave a shy smile. "Ah, Tunde, it's just a small matter. My cousin said I should come see you before we go out. I no get time to change cloth." He frowned. "But you look," he stopped, glancing around, embarrassed as a few of his co-workers passed by. "Look, Amara, we can't stand here. People are watching." She followed him inside, her heart tightening. His tone wasn't loving, it was calculating. Inside his office, the air smelled of air freshener and expensive tea. Tunde adjusted his tie and looked at her with mild irritation. "Amara, you shouldn't come to my workplace like this," he said, lowering his voice. "People might get the wrong idea. You know I have a reputation to maintain." Her chest sank. She forced a smile. "Reputation? Since when Love Day wear designer cloth before e-fit enter office?" He didn't laugh. "Be serious. You know we're planning a wedding soon. You can't be appearing like one market woman." Her eyes stung. "So if I no get money again, you go shame to call me your wife?" Tunde's face softened slightly. "Amara, it's not like that. You know I love you. But you also have to understand appearance matters. The people I work with." Before he could finish, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," he said quickly. The door opened, and Adaora stepped in. She looked stunning, sleek gown, designer bag, hair styled like royalty. She carried herself with that easy confidence of someone used to money. Her perfume filled the room instantly. "Good afternoon," she said sweetly, flashing a smile. "I'm looking for Mr. Tunde. My cousin Amara told me you could help me open a new account?" Tunde froze. His eyes lit up the way only greed could light them. Of course," he said, voice suddenly full of warmth. He pulled out a chair. "Please, have a seat. You're Amara's cousin? Wow. You must be the one she always talks about, the one living abroad. Adeora laughed softly, playing along. Oh, she talks about me, hmm? Amara watched quietly from the corner, heart thudding. Yes, Tund continued eagerly, Amara is lucky to have a cousin like you. You know, she's very simple. Doesn't like showing off. But you You look like a woman of taste. Adeora raised a brow. Really? Yes, he said, leaning forward. If I may say, you have such presence. The kind of woman that brings class to a man's life. Amara's breath caught. His words cut deeper than any blade. Adeora smiled politely. So, Mr. Tund, you're her fiancé, right? Tund hesitated, then forced a laugh. Ah, well, we're still working things out. You know how relationships can be complicated. Amara's eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Adeora played her part well. Interesting. I thought you two were getting married next month. Ah, Tund said quickly, nothing is finalized. You know, Amara is still trying to find herself. But I'm sure she'll be fine. Amara's stomach twisted. The same man who once knelt and kissed her feet after a minor disagreement was now ashamed of her, brushing her off like dust. As the minutes passed, Tund grew more flirtatious. He complimented Adeora's jewelry, offered to take her out to dinner to discuss her banking options, and even asked what hotel she was staying at. Adeora glanced at Amara discreetly, her face tightening with anger, but she stayed calm. After a few more minutes, Amara rose quietly. I will go now, she said softly. Tund barely looked up. Yes, I'll call you later. He didn't even walk her out. Outside, the noise of the street swallowed her pain. She walked aimlessly, eyes burning with tears she refused to shed. The world felt smaller, the air heavier. A few market women called out to her, but she didn't respond. She walked past the shops, past the churches, past the bus park where people argued over change. Her slippers slapped the ground rhythmically, like the sound of heartbreak itself. She stopped by a small buka, a roadside food stand, and sat down. The aroma of the gussi soup and jollof rice filled her nose. The owner, Mama Ife, smiled at her. My daughter, you look tired. Oh, what'n happened? Amara forced a small smile. Nothing, Mama. Just life. Mama Ife chuckled, serving her a plate. Ah, life day show us pepper sometimes. But remember, pepper way burn mouth today fit sweet stew tomorrow. Amara nodded, grateful for the kindness. She ate slowly, her mind drifting to all the moments with Tund, the laughter, the late night calls, the promises of forever. All lies. All empty. When she finished eating, her phone buzzed. A message from Adeora. He failed, Amara. I'm so sorry. Come to my house when you're ready. Amara stared at the screen, then wiped her tears and smiled sadly. Let him keep his pride, she whispered. He just lost the best thing he'll ever have. Later that evening, she arrived at Adeora's mansion in Bodija. The house glowed like a palace, with lights sparkling on the high gate and the scent of jasmine floating in the garden. Adeora was waiting at the door. She hugged Amara tightly. I wanted to slap that idiot, Adeora said, fuming. How dare he talk about you like that? Amara chuckled weakly. Don't worry. You did well. Now I know. They sat down in the living room, a vast space filled with marble floors and glass tables. Amara stared at the chandelier, her mind blank. Adeora placed a hand on her shoulder. You're worth more than him, Amara. Any man who judges you by how you look doesn't deserve your heart. I know, Amara whispered. But it still hurts. Adeora sighed. You'll heal. You always do. Amara smiled faintly. Funny thing is, my late father always warned me a man who only loves your beauty will never survive your scars. Adeora smiled sadly. Wise man. The night deepened, and thunder rumbled in the distance. Amara stood by the window, watching the rain begin to fall. Her reflection in the glass looked stronger now. Something in her had shifted. The pain hadn't broken her, it had awakened her. She turned to Adeora. You know something? Tomorrow, I'm canceling that wedding. And I'll do it in front of everyone. Adeora's eyes widened. You sure? Amara nodded. Yes. He deserves to see what he threw away. Outside, the rain poured harder, washing the streets clean. Inside, Amara felt something similar happening in her heart, a cleansing, a renewal. She had loved deeply, trusted foolishly, but now she would rise. What she didn't know yet was that fate had one more surprise waiting, one that would change her life forever. Because the next morning, a lawyer from Lagos would knock on her door with a message: her late father's estate, frozen in court for years, had finally been released. And Amara, the girl mocked for looking poor, was about to become one of the richest women in Nigeria. The following morning broke with a soft breeze that swept through Ibadan like a whisper of renewal. The clouds hung low, carrying the scent of wet dust and promise. Amara sat on the edge of her bed, a half-empty cup of tea in her hands. Her eyes were steady now, not swollen from tears like last night, but calm, clear, and strangely peaceful. The pain was still there, but it no longer consumed her. She had made her decision. The wedding would be cancelled that day. Outside, the city was already alive. Traders were setting up their stalls, children running in uniforms, men shouting from danfos, and the rhythm of drums from a nearby church calling people to morning service. Life moved forward, and so would she. Her phone buzzed again. Adeora's message came through. I'm ready when you are. Let's go make history. Amara smiled faintly. She opened her old wooden wardrobe, sliding her fingers over the colorful wrappers, gowns, and lace she'd once picked for her big day. Each piece told a story, a dream she'd now outgrown. She chose a simple but elegant Ankara dress, deep blue with gold patterns that hugged her slender frame. It wasn't designer. It wasn't imported. But it was hers. By the time she reached Adeora's mansion, the sun had already begun to rise higher, scattering golden light over the tiled driveway. Adeora was waiting, dressed in a white jumpsuit, confidence radiating from her like sunlight. You look like a queen, Adeora said, smiling. Amara laughed softly. A queen without a king. Adeora grinned. Sometimes that's the best kind. They got into Adeora's sleek Range Rover and drove through the city. The air hummed with life, hawkers waving sachets of water, children chasing kites made of old plastic bags, and bus conductors shouting routes in Yoruba and Pidgin. Amara looked out the window, thinking of how much of her world she'd missed while trying to fit into someone else's. When they arrived at the event center where the wedding planning meeting was to hold, guests were already there: relatives, church members, bridesmaids, and even Tund himself, dressed in his usual fine agbada, looking as smug as ever. He was standing with his friends, laughing loudly as if nothing could touch him. When he saw Amara step out of the car with Adeora, his laughter faded slightly. He hadn't expected her to come with that same woman he'd flirted with yesterday. He straightened up, forcing a smile. Amara. My love. You're looking beautiful as always. Amara gave him a calm look. Good morning, Tund. Adeora folded her arms, standing a few steps behind her friend. The crowd turned their heads, something in the air felt tense, unspoken. The wedding planner, a middle-aged woman with a loud voice, clapped her hands. All right everyone, let's finalize the arrangements for Saturday. Amara stepped forward. No need for that. The chatter stopped. All eyes turned to her. What do you mean? The planner asked. Amara took a deep breath. There will be no wedding. A loud murmur spread through the room. Tund's smile faltered. Amara, what are you saying? She met his eyes, steady, unwavering. I said the wedding is cancelled. Tund laughed nervously, glancing at the onlookers. My dear, this is not the place for jokes. Amara's voice rose, clear and strong. It's not a joke, Tund. You failed the test of love. You only loved me when I looked like money. The hall fell silent. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to pause. Tun's face flushed red. What nonsense are you talking about? Adeora stepped forward. Maybe I can explain, she said, her voice sharp. Yesterday, Amara came to see you in simple clothes. She wanted to know if you'd still love her if she had nothing. But instead of kindness, you gave her shame. You insulted her, and worse, you flirted with me, her friend, right in front of her. The crowd gasped. Tun stammered, what? That's not true. You're twisting things. Adeora pulled out her phone and pressed play. A short voice recording filled the hall, Tun's own voice, smooth and flattering, complimenting Adeora, suggesting dinner, dismissing Amara as confused and low class. Gasps rippled again. Someone muttered, ah. Tun donned fall hand oh. Amara stood firm. I gave you my heart, and you traded it for vanity. I thought you were a man of honor, but you're just another liar wearing perfume. Tun's composure shattered. Amara, you can't do this. You'll embarrass both of us. She smiled sadly. No, Tund. You embarrassed yourself the moment you forgot what love means. The planner awkwardly started packing her papers. Guests whispered, phones flashed, and the gossip began to spread like wildfire. Adeora touched Amara's shoulder. Let's go. As they walked out of the hall, Amara could feel the eyes of everyone on her, some shocked, some proud, some jealous. But she didn't care. For the first time, she felt free. Outside, the sun was blazing. Reporters from the local blog Nijascoop had already caught wind of the drama. One of them ran up, microphone in hand. Miss Nwosu. Is it true you cancelled your wedding on the spot? What happened? Amara paused, looked into the camera, and said calmly, sometimes God lets you lose fake gold before he gives you real diamonds. The reporter's jaw dropped. Adeora burst into laughter as they got into the car. Girl, that line will trend by evening. Amara laughed too, but it was laughter from deep within, the kind that comes after release. That night, she went back home to the family house. Her mother, Mama Nwosu, was waiting in the living room, wearing her wrapper and headscarf, worry written across her face. My daughter, she said softly, I heard what happened. People are already talking. Amara knelt beside her. Mama, I did what I had to do. Mama Nwosu sighed, then smiled faintly. I know. And I'm proud of you. Better to lose a man today than lose your soul tomorrow. They hugged, tears streaming down both their cheeks. The next morning, Amara woke up to the sound of someone knocking insistently at the gate. When she opened it, a tall man in a gray suit stood outside, holding a leather briefcase. Good morning, he said politely. Are you Miss Amara Nwosu? Yes, she replied, confused. He handed her an envelope. I'm Barrister Aladil, representing the estate of your late father, Chief Nwosu. I've been trying to reach you for months, but there was confusion about your address. I'm happy to inform you that the court has finally released your father's inheritance to you. Amara blinked. Inheritance? Yes, ma'am. Your father's oil and transport companies, along with several properties and accounts. The total valuation currently stands at approximately 6.3 billion naira. Her heart stopped. 6 what? The lawyer smiled. Billion. Congratulations, Miss Nwosu. For a moment, she just stood there, speechless. The world seemed to blur. The same world that had looked down on her just days ago suddenly tilted in her favor. Mama Nwosu, who had been listening from inside, shouted in shock. Shin-ik. My husband's wealth has returned. Amara sat down slowly, her mind racing. She thought of Tund, of the humiliation, of all the people who had judged her by her clothes. Life had turned full circle overnight. The lawyer continued, explaining details of the estate, but her thoughts drifted far away to her father's voice in memory. My daughter, wealth is a shadow. It will follow you if you walk in light. But if you chase it, you'll always run in darkness. She smiled faintly. Now she understood. Later that day, she called Adeora. You won't believe this, she said breathlessly. Adaora gasped after hearing the news. Wait, billion with a B? Amara laughed. Yes, my dear. The same poor girl from 2 days ago is now richer than your entire neighborhood. Adaora screamed into the phone. Oh, God is too much. Please tell me you're going to post something to make that ton choke. Amara chuckled. No need. I'll let silence do the talking. But silence didn't stay silent for long. By evening, social media was ablaze. Headlines read: Woman cancels wedding, inherits billions next day, fiancé reportedly collapses. Tun's friends started calling, trying to reconnect. Even Tun himself sent a message. Amara, please, let's talk. I made a mistake. I still love you. She didn't reply. Instead, she closed her phone, walked out to the veranda, and breathed in the cool night air. The stars above seemed to wink at her. In her heart, she whispered, "Thank you, God. Not for the money, but for the truth." The following weeks transformed Amara's life. The lawyer began transferring assets, journalists requested interviews, and charity organizations reached out. But Amara stayed grounded. She visited her father's old workers, gave them bonuses, and even renovated the primary school she once attended. People began to call her the humble heiress. Yet, despite her growing fame, she remained quiet, graceful, and unbothered. One afternoon, while attending a women's empowerment seminar in Lagos, she spotted Tund in the audience. He looked thinner, tired, his usual arrogance gone. Their eyes met for a brief second before he looked away. In that moment, she felt no anger, only pity. She realized then that true wealth wasn't in the billions she'd inherited, but in the peace she now carried. Amara had lost love, but found herself. She'd been betrayed, but blessed. And as she stood before the crowd, sharing her story about self-worth and dignity, the applause that followed wasn't just for her, it was for every woman who had ever been told she wasn't enough. She smiled, her heart finally at rest. The months that followed were a whirlwind of blessings, attention, and the kind of change that could either lift a soul or drown it. For Amara Nwosu, it became a rebirth. The story of the girl who cancelled her wedding and became a billionaire overnight spread across Nigeria like wildfire. From Lagos to Abuja, from radio talk shows to online gossip blogs, everyone knew her name. Some called her the Queen of Dignity, others the woman who proved love isn't about money. But while people saw only her glow up, they didn't see the quiet battles behind it. She had inherited billions, yes, but also the responsibilities that came with it. Her late father's oil company, Nwosu Energy Limited, had fallen into partial ruin after years of court delay. Corruption had eaten into its foundation like termites. Workers hadn't been paid in months. The offices in Port Harcourt and Abuja were in disarray. So instead of running off to enjoy her fortune, Amara did something unexpected. She got to work. She hired a team of young, ambitious Nigerians, engineers, accountants, and managers. She refused to let her father's name die. Each morning, she'd walk into the Lagos head office in a simple blouse and trousers, not a designer outfit. People whispered, "That's the new madam?" She didn't mind. Respect, she believed, was earned by effort, not clothing. One of her new hires was Kelechi, a quiet, brilliant operations manager from Enugu. He was tall, soft-spoken, and unlike most men she'd met, he didn't treat her like royalty. He treated her like a person. "Madam Amara," he said one afternoon as they reviewed some financial documents, "you're making changes most CEOs wouldn't dare. You sure you're ready for all this?" She smiled. "I didn't choose wealth, Kelechi. It chose me. Now I must prove I deserve it." He nodded thoughtfully. "Then may your wisdom never run dry." Weeks turned into months, and under her leadership, Nwosu Energy began to rise again. Workers returned. Salaries flowed. Old contracts were revived. Even government officials began to take notice. Amara became a symbol of integrity in a system long stained by greed. But success didn't mean loneliness hadn't followed her. At night, when the city lights dimmed and the hum of traffic faded, she'd sit by her window, thinking. She missed love, the real kind. Not the kind that came with titles or wealth, but the kind that saw through flaws and stayed anyway. Sometimes she'd think of Tund, wondering what he was doing now. Had he moved on? Did he regret his choices? She didn't know, and she didn't want to. But fate, once again, had plans of its own. One Saturday evening, as Amara attended a charity gala in Victoria Island, she spotted a familiar face among the guests. It was Tund, his once proud posture now slumped, his suit faded, his eyes tired. He was working as a financial consultant for a small firm that had recently lost its major client. When their eyes met, he froze. Then, slowly, he approached her. "Amara," he said softly, voice trembling. "You look incredible." She turned, her golden gown shimmering under the chandelier. "Tund. I've been trying to reach you," he said. I was stupid. I didn't know what I had until I lost it." Amara's face was calm, unreadable. "You didn't lose me, Tund. You let me go." He sighed, rubbing his hands nervously. "Please, Amara. I've changed. I swear. I've learned my lesson." She tilted her head slightly. "If life hadn't turned out like this, if I were still the poor girl in that faded wrapper, would you be standing here now?" Tund's lips parted, but no words came. His silence was louder than confession. She smiled sadly. "That's what I thought." Turning away, she walked toward the exit, the sound of her heels echoing through the hall like a victory drum. Eudora, who had been standing nearby, followed her out. "Girl, you handled that like a queen," Eudora whispered, beaming. Amara chuckled softly. "Queens don't beg for respect, they command it." Outside, the Lagos night glittered, cars honking, streetlights flickering, the air thick with the smell of roasted suya and perfume. Amara looked up at the sky, stars barely visible through the haze, and whispered to herself, "Thank you, Father. You were right all along." Days later, her company received an invitation to attend an international business conference in Johannesburg. It was a big deal, a chance to secure foreign investors for her renewable energy project. She decided to go, and to her surprise, Kelechi was chosen as part of the delegation. Their time together abroad drew them closer. Kelechi wasn't loud or flashy, but his intelligence, humility, and quiet humor brought peace to Amara's restless heart. One night, as they sat at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city lights of Johannesburg, he said softly, "You know, Amara, sometimes I think God breaks our hearts not to punish us, but to empty them so he can fill them with better love." Amara looked at him, eyes glistening in the dim light. "That's a beautiful thought, Kelechi." He smiled. "It's true. You were never meant to be someone's decoration. You were meant to be someone's destiny." She didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long time, her heart fluttered, not from excitement, but from peace. Back in Nigeria, rumors began to spread about her new friendship with Kelechi. Some said he was after her money, others said he was too ordinary for a woman of her status. But Amara didn't care. She had seen the worst side of pretentious love before. She could now recognize sincerity when she saw it. One afternoon, while visiting her father's old house in Enugu, Amara received an unexpected visitor, an elderly man, her father's former driver. His clothes were worn, but his eyes kind. "Madam Amara," he said, bowing slightly. "Your father always believed you would restore this family. He once told me, my daughter has more strength than any man I know. He would be proud of you today." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Thank you, Papa Chike. That means more than all the money in the world." As he left, she sat quietly in the garden, thinking of how far she'd come, from heartbreak to hope, from loss to leadership. Her story had become an inspiration to many women across the country. NGOs started inviting her to speak about resilience and self-worth. During one of those talks in Abuja, she stood before a hall filled with women, young and old, rich and poor. She spoke with passion, her voice echoing. "Don't ever measure your worth by how others treat you. Sometimes rejection is just God's way of redirecting you. I once thought my world ended when a man broke my heart. But that heartbreak became the soil where my destiny grew. Don't chase love that depends on your pocket, wait for the love that values your person. The crowd erupted in applause. Many women cried openly. Amara smiled, feeling purpose flood her soul. After the event, Kelechi found her backstage. "You've started a movement," he said softly. She laughed. "I just spoke my truth." He looked into her eyes, sincerity radiating from him. "Then let me speak mine. Amara, I don't have billions. I don't have your background. But I have honesty, and a heart that sees you, not your title, not your money, just you." Her breath caught. "Kelechi. I'm not asking for an answer now," he said gently. "Just know that whatever you decide, I'll always be in your corner." That night, Amara lay awake, thinking of his words. The same woman who had once been betrayed by love was now being courted by a man who didn't see her as a trophy. It scared her, but it also gave her hope. Meanwhile, Tun's life continued to crumble. His company lost major clients. His lavish lifestyle collapsed under debt. Rumors spread that he'd been fired after being caught in a corruption scandal. One evening, as Amara left her office, she found him waiting by the gate, rain pouring, his clothes soaked, eyes red. "Please, Amara," he said desperately. "Just hear me out. I'm not asking for money. I just need forgiveness." Amara stood under her umbrella, her face calm. "Tund, I forgave you long ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean access." He nodded slowly, tears mixing with the rain. "You're right. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me." She looked at him for a long moment. "Maybe losing me was the lesson you needed to become a better man." Then she turned and walked away, the rain glistening on her face like diamonds. That night, she wrote in her journal. "Sometimes, love fails not to punish us, but to prepare us. Sometimes, betrayal is the key that opens the door to destiny." Her story had come full circle, from heartbreak to healing, from pain to peace. And yet, the universe wasn't finished with her just yet. Because deep within her, a new chapter of love was slowly beginning, one that would test her courage, faith, and the depth of her heart once again. The sun was already high when Zara woke up the next morning. Her head throbbed from the night before, memories of tears, the scent of rain, the echo of her mother's comforting voice. For a moment, she didn't want to move. She simply lay there, eyes fixed on the ceiling, as sunlight streamed through the window bars, drawing soft golden lines across her blanket. Her phone buzzed. Dozens of messages. Some from friends who had heard about the cancelled wedding. Others from journalists sniffing for gossip. And, of course, many from Collins. Each one unread. Each one a wound. She scrolled through them slowly, until her thumb froze on a message from Moyo. "Zara, I need to see you. It's important." For a moment, she wanted to delete it. Ignore it. Pretend the world outside didn't exist. But something deep inside, curiosity, maybe forgiveness, made her put on her slippers and head downstairs. Her mother was already in the kitchen, humming a soft Yoruba hymn as she fried plantains. The smell filled the air, familiar and comforting. "My daughter," she said, without turning around. "You are strong. But don't let bitterness eat you. That's what men like Collins want. They destroy you twice, first with betrayal, then with your own anger." Zara sat quietly, watching the oil bubble. "Mama, I don't hate him. I just can't understand how love can die so quickly." Her mother smiled faintly. "Love never dies, child. But sometimes, it reveals what was never real." Later that afternoon, Zara met Moyo at a cafe overlooking the city. The place was calm, wooden tables, woven chairs, and a gentle hum of Afrobeats in the background. When Moyo arrived, her rich, confident aura filled the room instantly. She looked different, not the loud, glamorous version of herself Zara once knew, but softer, remorseful. She walked over slowly, her eyes heavy with guilt. "Zara," she began, "before you say anything, I want to apologize." Zara's face remained calm, though her chest tightened. "Moyo, I don't hate you. But tell me, why?" Moyo sighed deeply. "It started as a joke. Collins flirted, I flirted back. I thought he was loyal. But then he began saying things about you, that you were too simple, that he deserved better. I should have stopped it. I didn't. I'm sorry. Zara studied her face carefully. No pretense. No lies. Just regret. Did you love him? Moyo shook her head slowly. No. I think I just liked the attention. You know how men like him can make a woman feel wanted. But he's not worth your pain. The world saw your strength. They're praising you, Zara. You turned humiliation into dignity. Zara smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened. Maybe God used you to show me the truth. Moyo looked down. There's something else. My uncle, the chairman of the Moyo group, you remembered he was fond of you? Zara nodded. Yes, he always treated me kindly. Moyo took a breath. He passed away last week. I didn't want to tell you before the wedding. But in his will, he left everything to you. Zara blinked, confused. To me? Why? Moyo reached into her bag and pulled out a folded document. He said you had a pure heart. That you treated him like family, not like a billionaire. He wanted someone like you to carry his legacy. Zara, you're now the majority heir of Moyo Holdings. The words hit Zara like thunder. She stared at the paper in silence, her mind spinning. Her life, her heartbreak, her pain suddenly collided with an unimaginable twist of fate. Moyo reached out, tears in her eyes. You deserve it, Zara. Use it well. In the days that followed, Zara's life transformed. She met lawyers, financial advisors, journalists, all wanting to speak to the newly crowned heiress. The girl who cancelled her wedding and walked away from deceit was now the talk of the nation. But she stayed humble. She used the inheritance to create something meaningful, a women's empowerment foundation that offered education and small business funding for rural girls. Let them never be deceived into thinking their worth lies in gold or men, she said during her first press conference. One afternoon, weeks later, she received a message from Collins. Please. Just 5 minutes. I need to explain. She didn't respond. But that evening, as she was leaving her office, she saw him waiting by her car, tired, unshaven, his once proud face reduced to despair. Zara, he said softly, stepping closer. You won. You've become everything I wanted for us. I was stupid. I lost the best thing in my life. Please, just give me a chance to make it right. She looked at him for a long moment. Once, she might have wept. But not anymore. Collins, she said calmly, I didn't win anything. I just stopped losing myself. He tried to reach for her hand, but she stepped back. You loved my reflection, not my soul. I dressed poorly to test your heart, and you failed. But thank you. Because if you hadn't failed, I'd never have found myself. Then she turned away, got into her car, and drove off, leaving him standing alone in the fading sunset. Months passed. The foundation grew. Zara traveled across villages and cities, meeting young girls, funding their education, and sharing her story. Her humility and quiet power earned her national admiration. One day, while visiting her hometown, she walked through the same dusty roads where she once dreamed of marrying Collins. The market women still greeted her warmly, and children followed her car, shouting her name. She stopped by the little bakery her father used to run. It was still there, aged, but proud. She sat on the old wooden bench outside, closed her eyes, and breathed in the scent of roasted corn and rain-soaked soil. Her heart was at peace. Life, she whispered, isn't about the wedding we lose, but the truth we find. And in that moment, as the evening breeze brushed her face, Zara smiled, the kind of smile that comes not from wealth or power, but from healing. The poor girl who once dressed in rags to test love had become a woman draped in grace. She had found strength in betrayal, wisdom in pain, and hope in forgiveness. And though the world now called her a billionaire, Zara still called herself what she always was, a girl who simply wanted to love honestly and learned that self-worth is the richest inheritance of all.